No Luka, no problem. The Dallas Mavericks get an 87-78 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder to win their 10th game in their last 13 outings. This is the Gray Area. Kevin Gray, of course, of 105.3 The Fan. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Kristaps Porzingis gets 19 points and 13 rebounds, and the Dallas Mavericks use 3 sub-20-point third quarters on defense to stifle the Oklahoma City Thunder 87-78. Not the prettiest game in terms of offensive basketball, but at the same time a gritty, gutsy performance without Luka Doncic, who was missing this game against the Oklahoma City Thunder due to lower back tightness. He will still be available for all the all-star festivities, including being a part of the skills competition and, of course, participating in Sunday's all-star game, where he is a second-time starter in the all-star game. The Dallas Mavericks got great contributions from guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Richardson, and others to be able to win their 10th game in their last 13, their third straight overall. A team that has dealt with a lot of adversity throughout this season, at points losing 6 games in a row, missing several players due to COVID, and a team that has put themselves in a position now with a lot of momentum carrying that forward now at the end of the first half, where they conclude their first 34 games of the season and also get their home record to 9-8 on the season. This was a Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team that, coming into this game, was only allowing 9.3 points per game in fast break in transition. The Dallas Mavericks were able to score 15 points in transition on the fast break and double up on the Oklahoma City Thunder 15-7 in that category. I asked head coach Rick Carlisle after the game about the importance of being able to get out in transition and being able to double up the Oklahoma City Thunder in terms of those transition points. Here's what Coach Rick Carlisle had to say after the basketball game.
Hey, good evening, Coach. This is a team in the Thunder that was only allowing 9 points on the fast break this season. You guys doubled up 15-7 on them. How important was that to get out in transition on the fast break and get some easy buckets in fast break?
Yeah, it meant 2 things. It meant, number one, that we were getting some stops. And number 2, they're hard to score on in the half court. So it's essential to get it out there. And, again, Richardson had a lot of plays where he came up with the ball and pushed it ahead. A couple where he got in transition, drove it, got to the free throw line. And, guys shooting 95% from the free throw line or whatever it is. So, again, it all starts with defense. If you're not getting stops, you're not going to get many fast break points. It's just not going to happen. But I thought the guys really just had a great focus on what was necessary tonight, just in terms of, as a group, just staying really into it mentally at the defensive end.
So Rick Carlisle understanding that the ability to get out in fast break was because of their defensive play that they were able to display all night long. They forced 13 turnovers against the Oklahoma City Thunder, holding the Oklahoma City Thunder to 23% from the three-point line, and overall only 33% from the field. Again, not a great shooting night for either one of these basketball teams. If you like offensive basketball, I'm sorry, this wasn't the game for you. But from a defensive standpoint, the Dallas Mavericks playing one of their best defensive games all season long, as I mentioned. 3 sub-20-point third quarters on defense really got this team going and allowed them to get out in transition to really be able to put the pedal to the metal, especially doubling up the Oklahoma City Thunder in terms of fast break points. The Dallas Mavericks, had 4 guys in double figures. You had Kristaps Porzingis with 19, Tim Hardaway Jr. with 19 points, Josh Richardson with 16, Jalen Brunson with 11 points. He got off to a strong start in the first quarter. You could tell that the Mavericks were trying to attack the rim, especially trying to force the issue on offense, given the fact that they had no Luka Doncic in this basketball game to really facilitate the kind of offense that they were accustomed to. Obviously did not shoot the ball well from the three-point line, that the Dallas Mavericks on their own, going a paltry 8 of 40 from downtown themselves. But this game was about gutting it out, finding a way to win against an Oklahoma City Thunder team that's very difficult to score on in the half court, and at the same time coming up with enough offense themselves to be able to win this basketball game. It was a throwback to kind of the 90s, if you will, in terms of the defensive struggle, some of the missed shots, and the inability to score throughout points in this basketball game. But at the same time, The Mavericks finding a way to win, and good teams, especially a Mavericks team that's been dealing with the kind of adversity that they have this season, finding a way to win is just another notch for this team and what they have been able to learn and grow about themselves during the first half of this season. I asked Tim Hardaway after the basketball game about what this team has gone through throughout the first part of this season and what was the message that they continued to preach to themselves about how they would move forward despite all the things that they've been through to now build the kind of momentum that sees them winning 10 out of their last 13 basketball games. Here's what Tim Hardaway had to say after the game.
Hey, Tim, congrats on the win. You guys have won 10 out of your last 13, and obviously it's been an up-and-down season with all the adversity you guys have been through. What's been the one thing that's kept this team together despite the adversity that now sees you guys going into the break with the kind of momentum that you have right now?
I think the most important thing is just guys are I'm not going to say we didn't care because we didn't have a full roster, you know, and all the protocols of that nature and people we have in COVID. But the care and the want, you know, is really, really showing and is at a high level right now. And it could get better. That's the scary part about it. So it's great that we ended, you know, the first half of this season on a great note, going out with a win. And we just got to make sure that once we come back, everybody's on their P's and Q's and making sure that we know what's at stake.
So Tim Hardaway saying that it can get better, and that's the scary part about all of this. And he's right. That is the scary part about all of this. A team that had one of the most difficult schedules in all of the NBA during the first half of the year, had several games postponed due to the winter storms in Texas. Obviously, the amount of players that were missed during COVID with guys like Josh Richardson, Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, any number of these guys who had to deal with coronavirus. This team was still able to overcome that adversity and be able to put themselves in position to where they have built the kind of momentum that will give them the opportunity in the second half to come out of the gates running when they come back right here to the American Airlines Center to take on the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday, March 10th. This team now gets a week off. Obviously, Luka Doncic, the only All-Star heading to the All-Star game for the Dallas Mavericks this season. But at the same time, everyone else will have the opportunity to rest, to get their bodies recovered, and get ready for a grueling second half that will see the Mavericks play 38 basketball games. That is one of 3 teams that plays at least 38 basketball games in the second half of the year. So the Mavericks have a heavy schedule coming up during the second half of the year. I was able to ask Kristaps Porzingis after the game also what this team was able to deal with and be able to have a positive message going forward in all the things that they have dealt with. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis has been in the middle of trade rumors, obviously with connections to the Golden State Warriors, or the team potentially sniffing around for Kristaps Porzingis' trade value and trying to gauge what other teams may potentially want in Kristaps Porzingis, and him having to deal with obviously a back that was stiff also, coming back from the meniscus tear, getting off to a slow start on the defensive end, although his offensive game was much more better, obviously starting off this year than it was last year when he was coming off the ACL injury. Here's what Kristaps Porzingis had to say about what he and this team has gone through to find themselves now at this point of the season.
Hey, KP, congrats on the win tonight. Obviously, this team has won 10 out of their last 13 basketball games. What's been the overarching message about staying positive through a difficult first half of the season with COVID, injuries, and dealing with all of that and still remaining positive to gain some momentum right now?
Yeah, no, it's obviously tough when you're losing, you know, and we're the type of team that we expect to win every game that we go into. And, you know, we had, you know, worse moments, but we knew we had a lot of guys out. And I started the season late, and we had, you know, Maxi and Dwight and everybody, you know, catching the virus. So, you know, we weren't the whole team playing for a while. And, you know, it takes time and also the schedule and stuff. So it's a compilation of things. And you know, the good thing is that we're, you know, catching a rhythm lately, and we want to keep it going after the break.
So Kristaps Porzingis, understanding that this team has gone through a lot. Obviously, with the COVID situation that they had, the adversity that they dealt with the 6-game losing streak, and just putting themselves in the right frame of mind to be able to build the kind of momentum that has now allowed this team to play much better on the defensive end over these last 13 games. This team has been much maligned all season long about their inability to get stops, especially in the fourth quarter, and overall a team that was in the trending poorly in terms of defensive rating, was doing well at the beginning of the season. A team that at one point was top 5 in defensive rating, but plummeted and bottomed out toward the bottom third in the NBA in terms of defensive rating, has now found some balance with some better defensive play over the last several games, but more importantly, the offense really coming into form. We know what Luka Doncic was doing over his last 8-9 basketball games, averaging over 30 points, shooting over 45% from both 3 and from the field, playing the kind of all-star basketball that we were accustomed to seeing from him through his first couple of seasons in the NBA. But more importantly, his teammates coming on board also with improved play. You saw guys like Trey Burke and others, especially in this particular game, play a little bit better. Obviously, Josh Richardson being able to have the kind of defensive game that he did. He had 4 steals in this game. Maxi Kleber, who had a terrific defensive game in their last game, continuing to play well also. So you're finding out what this team actually looks like when they're actually all completely healthy. And I asked Josh Richardson after the game also the same question. What has this team learned about themselves throughout all the adversity that they've gone through this season, and what now they have learned about themselves in delivering the kind of momentum that they need for themselves going into the second half of the season? Here is what Josh Richardson had to say after the game was over with.
Hey, Jay Rich, congrats on the win. Obviously built a lot of momentum at the end of this first half, going 10-3 in your last 13. What's been the message for this team dealing with the adversity that it's gone through? Obviously, you dealt with COVID also, and what this team has been able to build as far as ending this first half on a good run here.
Yeah, just being just resilient. You know, we've had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. We've had 6-game skids, 3-game skids, and just all over the place. But I think we're starting to find good form, and hopefully it carries over after.
So again, all of these players, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kristaps Porzingis, Josh Richardson, all echoing the same positive message about continuing to stay the course throughout a long basketball season, dealing with the adversity that they've gone through, but more importantly, believing in themselves and each other, blocking out the outside noise to really focus on the task at hand and continue to deliver on what Coach Rick Carlisle has wanted to deliver on for them this entire season. Coach Carlisle has talked about it all season long. The most upside for this team is on the defensive end in the basketball, and you're starting to see that come to fruition. You say, Kevin, this is an Oklahoma City Thunder team that struggles to score the ball offensively, but they were able to really put the clamps on, say, Gilgeous-Alexander in this basketball game. They were able to really clamp down, especially in half court, and really create some forced turnovers to get themselves out of transition where they needed to get easy buckets when they were able to facilitate the kind of offense that they needed to. So this team now gaining confidence, and this is a team that has been through so much this first half of this season, and now to come out on the other side, 2 games above 500, a game above 500 at home, and now with an opportunity with one of the more easier schedules in the second half of the season to really find themselves clawing back into the top 5, top 6 of the Western Conference, given how the offensive game has continued to come along for this basketball team. A little bit more consistency on the defensive end, and now the opportunity with some easier games in the second half of the schedule to really continue to build on the momentum that they were able to start in this first half of the year, especially in their last 13 basketball games, because for a while we thought this team was not going to be able to play the kind of defense. We thought this team was not going to be able to do the kind of scoring that they needed to consistently win night in and night out and put both of those things together. We knew at some point offensively this team was going to come around, and that they have now, finding themselves in the top 12 in the NBA in terms of offensive rating, but more importantly, defensively, finding ways to get stops when they need to, and more importantly, turning teams over, getting out on the break in transition, trying to make sure that they have the shot protection and rim protection that they need to from guys like Kristaps Porzingis, Maxi Kleber, Willie Cauley-Stein, and others on this basketball team to really give themselves the opportunity to be much more consistent and more balanced on both ends of the basketball. It has been a tough first half for this Dallas Mavericks basketball team, but at the same time, the resiliency, the ability to adapt, and more importantly, this team remaining together as one of the most close-knit basketball teams in the NBA. It really showed in these last 13 games to really give themselves an opportunity to win 10 out of 13 and honestly be one of the hottest teams in the NBA going into All-Star break. You're really kind of disappointed if you're a Mavericks fan right now about the fact that the All-Star break is happening right now, given the kind of momentum that the Mavericks have built, especially in these last 13 games. But at the same time, this break is needed. The grueling schedule that this team played in the first half of this year, 34 games, and now looking forward to a second half schedule that will see them play a ton of back-to-backs, obviously games against the Lakers. They'll have 4 games against the Lakers and the Clippers. All 4 of those games will be at the American Airlines Center, but at the same time, a team that desperately had to find themselves continuing to grow the momentum that they were able to start during the first half of this year and then carrying that into the second half. This team still needs a perimeter scorer. They still need to find someone who continues to facilitate offense. But to me, other than Luka Doncic, the first half MVP for this basketball team, Jalen Brunson, a guy who's flirting with the 50-40-90 season in terms of shooting the ball 50% from the field, 40% from the free throw line, or from the three-point line, 90% from the free throw line. He has been that good this season and honestly has been the Mavericks' second best player in the first half of the season with his consistency, whether it be coming off the bench or in starting at times where earlier in the season he had to start a game in Chicago and had over 30 points in that game. But the consistent resiliency and shot-making and play-making ability of Jalen Brunson, the captain of the Stay Ready All-Stars, Jalen Brunson, other than Luka Doncic, was the Mavericks' first half MVP, and can't wait to see what he does going forward into the second half of this season. The Dallas Mavericks are able to get themselves an 87-78 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, winners of 10 of their last 13 basketball games, 3 games in a row, heading into the All-Star break at 18-16 and now 9-8 at home. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube. We will talk to you again after the All-Star break as the Dallas Mavericks again get an 87-78 win, 18-16 on the season as they get ready to head into this week-long All-Star break. This has been the Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. Peace.